Let's now, with a round of applause, welcome the Minister for Environment, Science and Technology as well. Up on our feet, ladies and gentlemen, with a standing ovation, and welcome him to as well deliver his goodwill message.
Thank you. Prof. Chair, colleague ministers, Residence Coordinator of the United Nations in Ghana, Excellencies, distinguished guests, colleague students, ladies and gentlemen, and of course our friends from the media. When my sister from Zimbabwe was speaking and said that they have come to learn from us, I thought she would have said they have come to learn from their in-laws. And I have met a lot of Zimbabwean student leaders when I was the Secretary General of the All Africa Students Union. And everywhere we go, they would tell us that Zimbabwe was all right when the Ghanaian woman was the first lady. And Zimbabwe ceased to be all right when she unfortunately passed. Maybe perhaps Zimbabwe should come and then we give them another Ghanaian woman. My presence here is indeed an honor, and at the same time a source of overwhelming pleasure. And I say so because I've had the opportunity to share a platform with one of the distinguished and honorable citizens of this country, Professor Mohammed. It is a privilege. And again, Professor Abigail and I were mates. We were not only mates, we were study group mates. And we started from level 100 to level 400. We did a lot together. I am particularly proud about her. And of course, my kid brother, the professor and the vice chancellor of Accra Technical University. I mean, we've known each other for a very long time in the young activism and student leadership days. It is my distinguished pleasure to deliver this goodwill message at the opening ceremony of the 2025 edition of the Africa Regional Conference and Exhibition on Education and Skills Development, ARC-EDS, here at the Accra International Conference Center. Your kind invitation is an indication of the cordial relations that exist between you and the Ministry of Environment, Science and Technology as a partner in progress and nation building. In June last year, my ministry participated in the event at the Movenpick Hotel, and I am particularly pleased with the partnership we have created and seeing that more partners have joined. For me, it's a testament of our commitment to research in Ghana and the goodwill so far. Let me acknowledge the incredible effort of ESDEV Foundation Africa in Accra Technical University for initiating this critical conference. Your vision and dedication to improving education and skill development in Africa are truly commendable. Thanks also to the Ghana Academy of Sciences and all sponsors. Indeed, this conference stands as a testament to a power of collaboration and shared purpose. Ladies and gentlemen, science, technology, and innovation are at the heart of our transformation as a country. As the Minister of Environment, Science, and Technology, and of course, innovation, and I'll tell you a story. I attended a program with His Excellency, the President, and then when he saw the logo, it was messed. And then he asked me, but where is the I? You know, through executive instrument, the I has been taken out. But that is just executive instrument. We now have Ministry of Communication and Innovation. But it doesn't mean that innovation is insulated from the Ministry of Environment, Science and Technology, because the core mandate and functions of agencies under the ministry are to research and innovate. So innovation is still part and parcel of the Ministry of Environment. So people say must, excellencies is musty. So even by executive instrument, the I is not pronounced, but it's still part and parcel of what we do as a ministry. I am particularly excited about the potential of the emerging technologies to revolutionize education and create new opportunities for our young people. from digital learning platforms to cutting-edge vocational training programs. The integration of technology in education is a pathway to sustainable development and economic empowerment, and Ghana certainly cannot be left behind. This conference therefore comes at a pivotal time when the need to redefine education and address skill gaps for youth employment has been higher on the agenda both nationally, regionally, and globally. Particularly, I am excited about the choice of areas of discussion today with focus on one, redefining education to address skill gaps for youth employment and the need for a broader policy framework among governments. 2, industry collaboration and employment opportunities. And 3, the digital transformation in education and skill development. Maybe perhaps I would suggest that if we can look at what we can do with all the 3 thematic areas, focusing on policy formulation. Because one of the speakers said here, everything we do here, if we do not have the right policy intervention and the implementation of same, it will come to naught. So policy formulation and the implementation of same is significant. These topics are not just academic discussions, they are the building blocks for the future of our continent. By fostering an environment where education meets the evolving demands of the job market, we can equip our youth with skills they need to thrive a rapidly changing world. The references is how this conference fits with the aspirations of the biannual Environment, Science and Technology Forum that the ministry is organizing. And Prof. Chair, when I took over as a Minister for Environment, Science and Technology, and I must admit that when my name was mentioned as someone designated for Ministry of Environment and Science and Technology, I was wondering what I was going to do there, because my background is political science, because my PhD was actually in political science, even though myself and Professor Abigail, we started as psychology students. So I was wondering what I was going to do at the Ministry of Environment and Science and Technology by the name. But I guess that there's a reason why His Excellency the President decided to let me go there, based on one of the comments made here by one of our speakers, that technology is not a solution by itself. Technology is driven by something. And in contemporary developmental strategy, you cannot have development if you do not have adequate good governance practices under which the technological advancement is anchored. So when I went to the ministry, and my first engagement with heads of institutions, I realized that when I asked them to do personal introduction, and Professor Dampare is here, each and every one of them, Professor this, Professor this, Professor this. So I was asking myself, what am I going to do with these professors? Little did I know that yes, whatever scientific discovery or research that is identified can only be anchored in an environment of good governance practices, where you have engagement, transparency, and accountability, and that is the way to go. When I went around a meeting, I took a working tour of all the agencies. And let me use a big word here. I was flabbergasted. And when we were in Sunday school, we like using very big words. I realized that there are enormous research outputs done by our research institutions, unfortunately, and those research outputs are left in the shelves to gather dust. So I was asking myself, from where I sat, I never knew the capacity of our research institutions and the ability to do the kinds of things they did. The question I asked myself then was, now if you have these brains, if you have these research outputs, why are they not being utilized? And the only conclusion I could come to was that perhaps the information is not out there. Perhaps the opportunities are not made known, particularly to industry players. So I went to His Excellency the President, and I said, look, Your Excellency, I have had some visits of the various institutions, and I've realized that from where I sat, I have been a Deputy Minister for Trade and Industries before, that we rely on experts out there, and we spend a lot of money and resources. I said, we have the solution here. because of the interactions I've had with these research institutions. And I said, what do we then do? Then he then said, then we need to start what we haven't had. Organize the first Environment, Science and Technology Forum, where we bring together research institutions, academia, and players in the industry, so that they can take advantage of the enormous research output there. One, we create the platform as a government for the research output that are left in the shelf to gather dust to be taken advantage of. It is also an opportunity for private sector to challenge research institutions to conduct researches that are tailored to what they are already doing. And I'll give you a classical example. The first time I ate neat fufu, and those of you who haven't tried Ghanaian food, the debate between Ghana and Nigeria, I know my Nigerian brothers are here, should not even be limited to just jollof. At least we have fufu. There is fufu also in Nigeria. You need a lot of energy to pound fufu. You need a lot of energy. I mean, the traditional way of pounding fufu. The first time I ate fufu was in 2007. No, sorry, neat fufu. And once again, interestingly, I was then the Secretary General of the All Africa Students Union, and I was invited to attend a program in Paris by UNESCO. Thankfully, what a coincidence. UNESCO is part and parcel of this organization. And as a student leader, you are looking at the money you spend in renting a hotel. So I spoke with a friend who had a sister who was living in Paris. And I said, well, I can arrange and then you stay with my sister. So when I got to France, they came and picked me at the airport. So I stayed with them. The first night, I was served with fufu. But I didn't hear anybody pounding fufu in that house. So someone who is perching, you can't be asking questions. So I enjoyed my fufu. The next day, I was not served with fufu, I was served with jollof. The third day, once again, I was served with fufu. And I said, today I have to gather the courage to ask to find out whether they bought the fufu elsewhere. When I asked them, they said, oh, it's neat fufu. They showed me. Since then, I never knew, until I was appointed Minister for Environment, that neat fufu was an invention of CSIR, Council for Scientific and Industrial Research. Neat fufu was invented by a state institution, and an individual took it from CSIR. As I talk to you today, neat fufu is produced not in Ghana, but in China and distributed across the globe. Now, if CSIR was given much attention, if they had the resources, I believe that CSIR would have been making a lot of money from their intellectual property. And that is why His Excellency the President has directed that we should work on the legal instrument, and which we have actually started, to provide patency right and protection for research institutions for their intellectual work. Now, if it was even produced in Ghana, you can imagine the number of jobs that would have been created as a result of that. Another one is Pozzolano cement. Pozzolano cement is also an invention of CSR. I mean, I can give you 6 examples. When I visited GAIC, the Ghana Health Service and the Ministry of Health, from where I sit as a Minister of Cabinet, we spend money each year bringing in experts to assist in some of our equipments in the hospitals. When I visited GAIC, I realized that GAIC has the capacity to do that, and this would have saved this country millions of dollars. So the Research, Environment, Science and Technology Forum we are organizing is a pathway of finding a solution to some of these challenges. And I want to use this opportunity to invite everybody to participate in it. Initially, we were thinking of doing it biannually. We had the pre-launch last 2 months, and His Excellency the President directed that we should do it once a year. So we shall have it on the 16th of September, and I want to invite everybody to participate in the first Environment, Science and Technology Forum that we shall be organizing here. Now, everybody has lamented about research. 4 decades after African leaders declared in what is known as the Lagos Declaration that we were committing 1% of GDP into research and development 40 years ago, well, more than 40 years ago, the average percentage of GDP that is committed for the purposes of research and development in Africa is 0.42%. Israel spends 6.5% of their GDP on research and development. Korea, 5% of their GDP for research and development. China, 2.6% of their GDP for research and development. And we spend Africa average of 0.42%. So certainly, we can only be beneficiaries of people invention, but we should be leading the invention. And one of the surest ways we can do that is to make the research institutions financially independent. And I remember when I was being vetted, I said, we are going to commercialize research output. And the media took it up and said, Murtala is proposing of privatizing research. That I was proposing of privatizing research institutions. That was not what I was proposing. I was proposing of commercializing research output so that the research work that they have done, they are able to make some money out of it. So even government are not able to spend money, GDP on research, at least the research institutions will be able to generate some resources because of this commercialization to be able to do some of the things they otherwise would have not been able to do. And it is important. A country that doesn't research certainly cannot innovate. And a country that doesn't innovate will be contented with what they have. As the saying goes, that in the village of the blind man, the one-eyed man is the king. So I want to assure Prof. Chair and everybody that this government is more than willing to invest so much in research. 0.5%, I think from around 0.36% to 0.5%, even though it is just minimal. But I can assure you the commitment of His Excellency to increase the percentage of GDP to research and development will be a reality by next year. The challenge we have today is because of the limited fiscal space. And we are very hopeful that once the research agenda is yielding the needed results, there will be so much money from the GDP that would be given to research and the research institutions by next year. Mr. Chairman, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I am confident that dialogue and partnership formed here will pave the way for actionable strategies and policies that will benefit not just Ghana, but the entirety of the African continent. Let us seize this opportunity to forge a future where every young person has access to quality education and the skills necessary to succeed. We must come out with this conference with clear roadmap on complementing and enhancing ongoing initiative towards education and skill development. I was sharing some thoughts, having some thoughts with Prof. We live in a country where you can write SHS and blow all subject AA and fail maths or English and you sit at home. It simply doesn't make sense. You fail in one subject and that ends it. I know friends, particularly those of us who attended Saito schools. I know friends who, when we wrote SHS, they failed in one subject and they have never had any formal education because they failed in one subject and that ended it. And Prof is telling me, and that is why it is always good that when the elderly is at home, rain will not beat the foodstuff that is indeed dried in the compound. He said, look, University of Cape Coast had implemented that policy some years ago, that you fail in some subject, they still admit you. But there is a criteria by which you could be examined. But in our part of the world, you failed in one subject, and that ends it. And we live in a country, once you speak English in a very funny way and eloquent, you are the most intelligent person, because we focus so much on certificate than the ability of people to give results. I was telling Prof, in China has indeed lifted the birth control restriction. You know, China used to be one man, one child. They have lifted that because they realize that their population is aging. So they want to have a youthful population. And then we have almost 70% being the youth. What are we doing? We have been endowed. God has given us. The only way we can change that is to change our thinking. And Prof. Chair, I'll take solace in what Albert Einstein once said, that the significant problems that confront us can never be solved with the thinking we had when we created them. The problems that are confronted us were not imposed on us by any supernatural being somewhere. They were our own creation. And the only way we can solve that is to begin changing the way we thought when we created them. And I am very confident, fora such as this, programs such as this, is a pathway of changing the thinking. And that is why I am particularly confident that at the end of the day, we shall find panacea to some of the teething challenges confronting us. In this vein, I take this opportunity to extend the invitation, as I said, of our best forum, that is the Science and Technology Forum, to our partners meeting in liaison with the Association of Ghana Industries, to be held here from the 16th to 19th of September. In closing, I extend my sincere thanks for all our partners and sponsors and participants. Your commitment to this cause is invaluable. Let us embark on this journey together with determination and optimism. But let me also conclude by saying that sometimes I understand the challenges that confront policymakers, and particularly we politicians. And I'll tell you something you just laugh. I watch a video. I don't know whether the Botswanan president or one president in the Southern African countries. And he said, he attended the program and said, my people are saying that I should look at Captain Ibrahim Traore, that he gets things done. Why can't I get things done? And said the difference is that Captain Ibrahim Traore is a military leader. He rules by decree. But me, even the policy formulation, we finish a civil society organization says, hey, you send it to Parliament, MPs will use 2 years to debate it. That by the time you start implementing, you are voted out of power. And I must admit, sadly and unfortunately, politicians, when we win elections and we are sworn in, we start thinking of the next elections. Until such a time, we began looking at a comprehensive national development plan. I had the privileged opportunity to have participated in the 40-year development plan. And by the way, my first Master's after Psychology was in planning at KNUST. And I then, the Deputy Minister for Trade and Industries, I represented the ministry. The most comprehensive national development plan. And I remember when this plan was presented to the former president, then my party lost power and we were still struggling to come to terms with the defeat we had in 2016. I watched His Excellency President Nana Addo on TV, and he said, and I quote, in February 2017, when the development plan was presented to him, he said, I have never seen a comprehensive national development plan such as this. Because I do know that when we were attending it, there were people from all political parties, academia, who were participating. I believed the president. The question is, what happened? I believe that when they left, it was thrown in the nearest dustbin, and I don't blame him. And another development plan was indeed begun. Until such a time we begin to understand that we need to have a comprehensive national development plan where we're able to break the barrier of needless, limited, parochial, partisan positions as far as the development of this country is concerned, will not move forward. And that is why I have had some communication with some of my colleagues that we must make it in Parliament, even if we need to come with a private member bill to make it compulsory for all political parties to draw their manifesto in line with an acceptable national development plan. And I would say that His Excellency the President, I was in the United Nations in New York with NDPC, Professor Dr. Nimoy Thompson, said the President has directed that they look at all the development plans, the 40-year development plan, and the one the previous administration did, so that we can blend them and have a comprehensive national development plan. So we are waiting in Parliament. The moment that we have an acceptable national development plan, we shall insist that it is incumbent on all political parties to have their manifestos in line with the National Development Plan, because that is the only way. So we sit here, we deliberate, we discuss, and we come out with these good ideas. What is significant is the political will to implement it. And the political will is driven, unfortunately, by partisan will. And that is why I am very convinced that what His Excellency President Mohammed is doing is the way to go, that we have this so that you can no longer say this one was done by NDC or NPP. We look at all the development plan, and I believe that even Kwame Nkrumah's 5-year and 7-year development plan, which some of us have read from the beginning to the end, and I will urge young guys to read the Nkrumah 5-year and 7-year development plan, and you would have an appreciation how far we have come. Thank you so much, and God bless you all.
Thank you.